Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Let's wait for another couple of minutes. We are still waiting for one more speaker. We'll start right after 2 to 4 minutes. All right. Hello everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Should we wait for another few minutes so that more people can join in? I guess already a lot of people have joined in. So let's start at 10:35. Let's wait for another 2 minutes so that more people can join in. All right, folks. Let's start. It's amazing to people are showing up in great number. We already have a 443 people have joined already. It's 450 now. That's a great. So let's just start. Hello everyone. So welcome to our Twitter space discussion on the very hot topic of DePin. Uh, I'm Varun, your host for the today, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all today. We have an exciting panel lined up featuring three amazing speakers from the expert in their field. Let's give a warm virtual welcome to everyone. So we have just a minute. Let me just check. Yeah, I guess yeah. We have a speaker from Glacier Network, and then we have Pericho Miyokon. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. And then we have a Constantine from Titan Network. So great to have you all here. Uh, so please go ahead and if you can brief about yourself and also give a brief intro of your project. Let's start with maybe Constantine.
Lovely. Thank you for the invitation, first of all, and thanks to everyone tuning in here today to listening to our panel about the PIN. So, briefly about myself, my name is Konstantin. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Titan Network. At Titan Network, we are essentially building a new incentive layer for global idle resources. What our team essentially does is Titan Network is a digital resource network that incentivizes matching ecosystem idle resources such as storage, bandwidth, or compute with global demand, making it easy for everyone power of the PIN services and participate in the construction of Internet of Value. I will be happy to dive deeper into specifics of how Titan Network work, but if you were to grab one specific thing about what we do at Titan Network, what we allow you to do is essentially to match your idle resources, maybe storage or bandwidth or compute on your devices from your own phone from which you're watching or listening right now, this Twitter space, to your computer at home, to your planchette, to any device that you may have that lays idle from time to time in your space. And these devices can be connected to the Titan network and become participants of the DePin ecosystem, making for you it as simple as possible to participate in the DePin projects, contribute your resources, and get rewarded for the resources that you're contributing, while the resources are being utilized by other communities all around the globe. That will be the very brief presentation about Titan Network, and I'm more than happy to answer all the questions that are lined up for today's discussion. And I guess I'll forward it to the person from the Glacier to continue with an introduction.
Yeah, over to you, Jang. Over to you. Hi, Chang. You're not audible. Maybe you are mute. Yes.
Hi guys. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You are audible now. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Hi guys. Pleasure to be here. This is Chan. I mean, Chan and John, whatever. I'm the operation director of Glacier Network. So again, thanks for having me. So let me just give a very brief introduction about it, Glacier Network. So we are building a data-centric blockchain to supercharge AI at a scale. Uh, that's our vision. So we have been building solutions with Glacier and build infrastructure, including Glacier DB, Glacier AI, and Glacier DA. But these are more on the developer level. So one of the highlight of our project is Glacier storage data has ranked first on the BNB Greenfield layers, so featured in the official BNB chain GitHub and Gitbook, and highlighted in the BNB chain AI landscape. So right now, we are focusing on the end user functionalities. So, you know, to summarize everything, what we have been doing and the work we put out, we basically wanted to build a system where people will see more user-owned AI to create a decentralized, secure AI ecosystems that can actually benefit end users and researchers, and to create a balance with what I would call ethical consideration. So yeah, that's the gist of what Glacier is about. Thank you.
Thanks for great introduction. Over to you, Connor.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. This looks like a great big space, lots of people. So I think there's some interesting kind of deep and wide news as well that just came out. So I don't know if you guys have seen, but CoinDesk actually just launched a whole section of their site dedicated to Deepin. They launched with a couple articles from Deepin OGs or Deepin founders, but I just think that there's going to be a lot more Deepin coverage. Already has been this cycle, but will be even more so into the future. So just super exciting to see, and it's kind of meta that we're on this space now talking about Deepin as well, and there's just a lot of stuff coming out. But yeah, as for a way of introductions, my name is Connor. Been in the Deepin space for a long time, pretty much since the beginning. So in 2019, 2020. I think Filecoin and a few other deepins were around. Helium really kind of kicked the whole thing off, I would say, with just the use of token incentives to drive this kind of viral supply side growth flywheel in terms of getting hundreds of thousands of people around the world to buy their IoT devices and set them up and kind of create this global wireless network. That's what really popularized Deepin, I would say. Um, so I've been in the space since then. It's been amazing to watch it grow, and I think especially this cycle, Deepin actually has a sector name. There's probably 1,200 plus Deepin projects that are building. So the sector itself is named, and I think has much more attention on it than it did last cycle when it was kind of just like, oh, have you heard of Helium? Yes. Have you heard of Filecoin? Yes. But Deepin wasn't a thing at all. So yeah, it's just been awesome to see the space grow. I work in BD, business development at IoTex. So IoTex is not a DePin itself. We are kind of a DePin infrastructure layer. So we are a layer one blockchain. We're EVM compatible. We've been around for a long time, actually, also since before DePin. So back in 2019 is when the company was founded. And yeah, we're a layer one blockchain, kind of have all the tools and infrastructure you'd expect a layer one blockchain to have. We've got a big community. that's global, kind of super interested in DePin. We've got a bridge to a bunch of other blockchains, got a couple dexes, a bunch of kind of ecosystem projects building. We've got an accelerator specifically for DePins that has had a ton of success recently and is in cohort 2. So we've got some TGEs for DePins coming up on our chain. But yeah, really just looking to build out an ecosystem. I mean, we already have the ecosystem, but continue to build out an ecosystem of tools and infrastructure and support for DePin projects, DePin founders to launch on our chain. And even if the DePin project isn't natively on our chain, we have a very modular approach to all this kind of infrastructure. So if the DePin token's on Solana, like there's other ways we can help that DePin project within the IOTeX ecosystem. We don't necessarily need to have their token kind of be natively on our chain. So yeah, looking to do all we can to help DePin founders, looking to kind of abstract away as much of the commoditized DePin tech stack as possible. So um, just looking to make life as easy as possible for DePin founders to kind of quickly get off the ground and scale out the both supply and demand side of their networks.
Thanks for great intro. It was a great listening, you all. So yeah, let's go ahead. For those tuning in, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we will try to get to as many as we can. Now let's dive it right into it. So our first topic is into the basics of DePin, right? So let's get start with what's the goal of DePin model, or basically before going that, what exactly DePin defines itself, or maybe what are the goals behind that, behind the DePin model. So let's start with maybe Cheng from Glacier Network.
Yeah, sure. I think this is a great question, and we, you know, if anyone is interested in our definition of a DePin network, feel free to check out our Twitter and X account. So I think first and foremost, the DePin projects are the projects trying to leverage blockchain and other technologies to create decentralized networks. So the key words are decentralized networks. This is the priority, and this is what the majority of the projects are doing, including us. Uh, some critics in this space are saying, "Oh, you are not a DePin project if you don't have a horde of physical hardwares attached to your systems." Personally, I think this is entirely ridiculous. So from my perspective, a Bitcoin and the Bitcoin network and many other the earliest POW projects are the OG of the DePin project in a different form and shape or form. So before everything, they are already they were the decentralized networks. So I guess the term DePin is somewhat misleading, or it's not well defined in our community, as it implies the necessities for hardware or other physical equipment. But in reality, it does not need to be that way. Uh, so for us, it always comes down to incentive design, network, and your token economy. That's all that matters, at least from the fundamental level to us. So I guess our principles and goals as a community, I mean, are to design a system, whatever that system might be, to coordinate the different parties to work together in a very sovereign and economically feasible way to to do the greater good. That's my understanding. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Great. Over to you, Constantine.
Well, yeah, I honestly feel that there is a lot of alignment between at least the panel here today. So what like DePin truly tries to bring, maybe adding 2 cents to what's already said, and I think it's a very marvelous introduction to like, hey, DePin is not just physical infrastructure; it's more than that. There's like a lot of types of resources, whether physical or digital, that community can share along the way on physical infrastructure. It's of course none of the digital resources come without physical infrastructure at some point in time, but that shouldn't stop you from being part of an ecosystem, whether you are able to contribute your server or cluster infrastructure or just your mobile device or a Raspberry Pi at home. It's the same, equally powerful and equally valuable. What maybe standing out a little bit from like DePin of what exactly it is from like physical standpoint or definition, for me, what really shines what DePin is, or what really highlights to me what DePin is, the focus of ecosystem and DePin narrative was that, hey, now we are able not only to build the resources, build them in a centralized way, but what we can truly unlock is enable all the community around the globe, all different kind of participants, become the providers of the resources themselves, and remove this barrier or need to have enough cumulative power to serve someone else around the globe. For me, this is a super powerful notion where I can contribute with whatever resources I have to the network and get benefit for them. So on one side, me as user or supplier in the ecosystem, I'm now enabled to leverage 100% of the resources I have accumulated myself, whether that's 100% of the mobile device that's being committed to the network when I'm sleeping, or that's a cluster powerful server somewhere around the globe, which I'm connecting to DePin projects like Filecoin. All of these, both of these are powerful notions, in core of which there is an idea that I can contribute something to a broader community to utilize while being rewarded for those resources, essentially transferring the wealth and power back to the community who owns something. And that's what truly DePin is for me. It's not about a specific resource. You don't have to be a GPU network with to be a DePin. You don't have to always even have a physical infrastructure. Maybe you commit your bandwidth and reallocate it to somewhere else. That all still is DePin to me as far as it's contributing the resource and maximizing the potential of something that you own to the benefit of yourself and greater community. So that's where I see the true power and the empowering future behind the DePin technology that we're all here talking and building.
Just totally agree, 100%. And I totally agree with the point that it's all about decentralization and community driven development. And what I feel is Deepin aims to shift the ownership and control of the critical infrastructure away from centralized entities, right? Like government and corporation, and put it towards distributed community based model. That's what I have felt. So yeah, over to you, Connor, now.
Yeah, I think there was some great insights shared here. I think maybe even bubble it up to a higher level, like the way that I like to first present Deepin to really anyone, especially if they're outside of the kind of crypto space, is to describe some of the industries that Deepin has at least initially started to improve. So obviously telecom, energy, um, these are huge, huge industries, some of the largest industries in the world in terms of kind of market cap and revenue. And they're also kind of like utilities in the sense that you want everyone in the world to have connectivity to the internet in the kind of telecom industry. You want everyone in the world to have power from the grid in terms of energy. So these are some of the biggest industries on the planet, but they are also very, very highly regulated, and you know, also because of their large capex or like upfront costs to become a telecom company or to become a utility provider, these industries are huge, but they're also kind of oligopolies. So there's very few suppliers for telecom connectivity, right? There's three or four main MNOs in the US. It kind of follows the same pattern in terms of utilities, maybe one per state or one per region in a state. So because these markets are huge, they're important, but also because they're oligopolies, there's few suppliers. And so those suppliers have a lot of kind of pricing power and can really dictate, what to charge the consumers, how good or bad of a customer experience the kind of the end consumer might have. So these markets are often like very kind of unsatisfactory for the end user. I think the commonly cited stat is like telecommunications is one of the lowest, I think it's NPS scores for any industry, which is a rating of consumer satisfaction basically. So the idea with Deepin is to kind of crowdsource capital and labor and infrastructure to build some of these utilities from the ground up, like obviously kind of as everyone else described, have different people around the world be able to contribute their resources in a shared way. But what that does is it increases the number of suppliers in any given market, and so it increases competition in that market. So, at the highest level, what I kind of describe DePin to be is basically a a way to bring innovation and competition to huge oligopolistic markets that affect everyone daily, but are kind of very not end consumer friendly at at the current time. So there's a lot more specifics we can get into in terms of how they do this and use tokens and blockchains and public ledgers. But I think that's kind of a description at the highest level.
This is some great level of insight. I mean, uh, I just gave you some basics of that, and you had gone ahead and get us shared us some great insight. So it's like a OG in the house in the deep in. So great to have you.
For sure. And
So
just real quick, forgot to mention, I actually pinned like a really basic DePin explainer in this space here at the top that I wrote for Bowtied Bull, which is like the number one crypto paid Substack. So it's like, a lot of the thoughts I just shared, but it's at a very high level and kind of written for anyone in tech or crypto, regardless of if they've heard of DePin or not. It's just kind of like an explainer. So I published it as a guest post in their Substack, and then also wrote out kind of an explainer thread there if anyone wants to check it out.
oh, that's really helpful, dear community. Please, right after this Twitter space, please go there and give it a read. I'm sure I am also read one or two articles of Connor, and it has written really well and explained well. So must go and check out right after the space. So yeah, let's move ahead with our another question, and it is a really good one. I'm really curious to know your point of view on this. So what are the promising DePin use case, because it has been a really hot topic as of now, and it is become really crucial for us to understand what its use case, how it's gonna revolutionize the things and help us build real things. So let's start with Chang from Glacier Network.
Yeah, sure. So I think this is a really good question, and for us at Glacier, I mean, I believe deepin projects and along with other crypto AI projects offer a lot of advantages for decentralized data storage and for the supply side too, compared to the traditional providers. And most importantly, I think that it's more ethical. So we have posted multiple threads on this because I truly believe this time Web2 returned with a even more formidable centralized AI, which could, which could allow bias to permeate our daily lives if we are not being careful. So I'm not a big fan of conspiracy, and I'm not saying this is what they set out to do, but I am saying this is what the Web2 and the traditional incentive drives them to do. So does Web2 AI help us? For sure. I mean, democratization of information is always good, but that's exactly why we should keep it going and strive for a better one. And this is the purpose of what we've been doing, no matter it's DePin or crypto AI project, whatever the name and the definition you want to give it. But this is what we are doing and what we are here for. So I like the saying very much. It goes like maybe the stakes of decentralized AI are higher than the stakes of decentralized finance. I really like the spirit and the sentiment behind that statement. So corporate-owned AI, use AI to maximize user engagement, like they always do. I mean, we don't blame them. Like I said, it's an incentive. Uh, so they maximize this for profit while limiting user autonomy and with increased manipulation. Um, so to answer your question, so I think the most promising one is the one that leverage tokenized rewards and valid incentive systems to maybe create a more engaged community and a more diverse data that ultimately contributed to the growth and the maintenance of a different kind of AI system and a different kind of data system. So, yeah, this is what I believe. Thank you.
Yep, totally agree. It makes sense. Uh, Connor, what do you think about this?
Yeah, the question was basically like, what are the most promising? Was it deepens or deepen sectors, or what
Yeah,
specifically?
what are the where these deep in infrastructure can be applied and build a great solution for the use case? So it's like great examples of deep in. What can be built using deep in infrastructures?
Yeah, I would say at a high level, deepens can probably be broken into, you're either building like a D app and you're a service provider, or you're building kind of like an open protocol. And I've seen both approaches. So I think if you're deep in building kind of like an open protocol, like example I would use here would be maybe Demo. So Demo is a deepen that basically has either software or hardware connections for your car. So if it's a software connection, like you have a Honda Accord, you have a Honda app, you log into your Honda app and you basically grant API access to the Demo app. That's the kind of free software integration. And then if you buy there's one of two demo devices, you can plug it into the OBD2 port in your car, and it's kind of like a direct connection. So either way, you will have your car minted as an NFT on the Polygon blockchain, and there's like a demo app which tells you different stats about your car. And what Demo is trying to do is, they're at around 100,000 connected cars right now. So what they're trying to do is scale the supply side pretty massively, maybe get to like 500K or a million or 10 million cars connected. And then what they can do is make that car data, kind of unsilo it between manufacturers and make that car data available to developers. So they want to make it available to developers to build different kind of D apps on it, and basically unsilo car data. So that's like an example of a deepin that's building kind of an open platform, an open protocol. Like that's Dema's trying to be the protocol for kind of open shared car data, for instance. And there's a lot of different applications that could be built on top of that. Um, and then there's also deepins that are providing a service. And I would say sometimes there's almost like the core development team of the deepin project is doing the BD to be the first service provider on the network. That's actually kind of the most common case. So example here would be Helium Mobile on top of the Helium kind of wireless network. So Helium Mobile is an MVNO, which means mobile virtual network operator. So they do not have any of their own kind of like cell towers, but like AT&T or Verizon do, but they do have kind of like a customer service sales BD arm, and they're going out and selling $20 unlimited data monthly kind of cell phone plans. So like I'm a Helium Mobile subscriber. That's kind of how my phone works, how I'm talking to you right now. And the way Helium Mobile works is they are partnered with T-Mobile, which is a big MNO, meaning mobile network operator. It's not virtual, right? They have their own towers. So whenever you're not in range of a Helium Mobile hotspot, you roam onto T-Mobile, which is great because you have nationwide coverage. And then when you are within range of a Helium Mobile hotspot, you actually roam onto Helium's coverage versus T-Mobile's coverage. So that's an example of like a service provider on top of or within a DePIN. So I really think like this kind of deepen idea can be applied to probably most real world industries, which is why it's so exciting. Um, if you think about like the kind of economic value of everything that's going on in the world, just being like trillions and trillions of dollars a year in terms of GDP or whatever else, like getting a lot of that on chain, I think is like the kind of real world asset ideology or like what RWA is striving for, but I think Deepin takes it even a step further, right? We're not just representing devices in terms of assets on chain. We're connecting them into a network that has a whole token economy and incentives and a supply and demand side. So I kind of see RWAs as like the building blocks of Deepins, and I think the Deepin model can be applied to pretty much any industry.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And I just have a point to add here. And one more thing which I come across for this use case is basically autonomous maybe mobility networks. It's like a decentralized fleet management and coordination can enable new models of shared and also autonomous transportation. And a great example I come across is like there is a project name I guess Drive, which is a more of a decentralized version of Uber, which I just came across a few months back. And what they do actually is basically they are a more inclusive version of like share economy, and which removes the middleman like a Uber, which cuts the commission, right? And they actually it's like a uh, user pay the driver in the fiat, and the driver also receive some tokens of that particular project. So like these are some of the creative use case that we have come across, and I'm very uh, positive about that it can be applied to a lot of other places as well. So yeah, going forward, Constant, what's your thought on that?
Well, I think there are many good points, and maybe even continuing your perspective, Arun. What really hypes me about the DePin currently is we kind of made a whole circle with beginning of blockchain, starting like, oh, participate in the blockchain space with any type of device. You can connect anything to mine Bitcoin. People were mining internal notebooks. Then we like rise in GDP, rise in consumption. There is more and more hash rate power needed for Bitcoin again to mine it. Now there's like dedicated clusters, servers, and infrastructure to just mine Bitcoin around the globe. Then we are doing like the circle back, like, hey, instead of requiring a huge amount of resources to participate in the networks, maybe the biggest value that blockchain was creating at that point in time was actually to bring as many people as possible to the network, regardless of their availability of resources, or not even regardless the availability of resource, but any type of resource should be able to be connected, pulled together, and then create a larger benefit in a cumulative state rather than one by one in the ecosystem. So the hugest or the biggest power to me is the notion of the DePin that really enables you to connect anything to the ecosystem. I was working at Protocol Labs Filecoin before starting to build the Titan network. And what I saw there was like a shift in the DePin from early stages was that early stages of DePin required you to have a huge infrastructure to build to be part of DePin ecosystem or networks. They required you to have a 50K rig to just start being participant, which is by itself a very huge like being able to contribute and benefit from the DePin networks. Now we are slowly and gradually seeing this barrier to entrance for DePin networks to remove or reduce. Corner, you are giving a really nice example with Helium, where it all started as a Helium project, but the Helium mobile is something that really made it shine, where you no longer need an impressive or powerful rig to be part of the network. There is a small box that can sit at your flat or in a nearby space and provide the power to the community around the globe. And it doesn't need to be expensive to be part of the network. That's where we as Titan Network also focusing on reducing the barrier to participate in the DePin networks as low as possible. So for us, you can connect your device as low as a Raspberry Pi or maybe a 6, 7 year old Android phone to the network, and you still be benefiting from it, from connecting and providing your resources to the larger ecosystem so someone could rent it out. And that's where I think the biggest and coolest hype for me in the DePin ecosystem comes from. Now, regardless of my background, regardless of available resources I have, if I have at least something and I'm not utilizing it to 100%, I can give it to an ecosystem, and that ecosystem will find utility to it to 100%. And that's where it's really turning the focus on each individual resource and making it more impactful that it could be just by itself. Because, well, if it's just one single Raspberry Pi, for obvious reasons, it will not be able to provide the largest compute networks or OpenAI or other high demand computing power projects. Single Raspberry Pi wouldn't be able to contribute to it. But when we enable community to pull the resources together, that's where something big comes into play. And we can create incentive models for people to be part of that, rewarding them for contributing in this, even the smallest fractions of resources, and really empowering them to be part of something bigger. This ability to unite people around, hey, now maybe my resources are being contributed to large networks, whether that's an IoT network, whether that's machine learning model, AI training network, or maybe as you were saying in the beginning, maybe there is something connecting to the infrastructure. I think coolest non-blockchain DePin infrastructure in one way is the solar power and putting the solar power back to the grid. It's like super simple, but what it really does, it enables small pieces of community around the globe to give back to the larger power source and get rewarded for that. And I think this tricks to be part of something larger and benefit from contributing resources is the biggest, coolest notion that I have. So connecting back to like which application or industry DePin will disrupt, I think everywhere where we reach the state of the infrastructure where you're as an individual too small to contribute, the power of DePin returns back this power to the community, because maybe by myself I'm too small to contribute or change, make an impact, but my resources being pulled together with thousands and thousands of other resources around the globe, that's when we make a power. And it's cool to be part of the community, and then we are united with people around the globe, and that's what makes it super exciting for me. So I strongly believe that there is so much more use cases that we haven't yet unveiled by the DePin ecosystem or DePin narrative, but we are at the beginning of a journey. Once again, it's still a very young, very optimistic industry, and if we are able to stay true to those ideas of enabling everyone to be part of something larger and greater and be rewarded for that, that's where I think we are all will be successful and happy.
This is really interesting, and it is really fascinating to see what Titan Network has been doing. And one thing which I noticed on your website while going through that you guys has covered almost 193 countries, and this has been really great to know. And maybe probably in next couple of days, I'll also try to run some notes and try to contribute on that. Since so this is really cool things here. Uh,
Yeah, and that's where we exactly see the value. It's like we have
right.
a lot of people around the world. There should be no barrier to participate. Whichever country you're coming from, probably you have a mobile device. If you're listening to this podcast, this discussion right now, you're definitely having at least one mobile device so you can contribute to it. But the bigger thing is not only that you are enabled to contribute, you'll be rewarded for the resources you're contributing. And depending on your location, that rewards might become from, oh, that maybe buys me a cup of coffee, to, oh, that actually sustains my livelihood for a significant period of time. And that's what I see the greatest power or disbalances, like making communities around the globe thrive through using these community pooled resources that you already have anyway. So if you bought a phone 2 years ago and you're not using it while you're sleeping, it makes total sense to contribute it to somewhere else where it will generate the money. And Titan Network just provides you one of the opportunities to do so. And I believe my fellow panelists are also building something amazing that enables you as a day-to-day community member be benefiting someone else and build those value around the globe, leveraging your resources to the maximum potential.
Yes, totally agree. This is great. And it's like a win-win situation for both the resource provider as well as the consumer. So this has been the great thing. So let's quickly move to another question. We have another interesting question, because now a lot of hype is going about the DePin, and a lot of infrastructure is building. A lot of dApps are being launched on that L1 and L2s. The next question comes in: what are the blockers? What are the challenges that DePin project needs to overcome to achieve mainstream adoption? Right. So now I would take let's start with probably Glacier Network.
Yeah, sure. So I think the main challenge, I always think about this question, from a fundamental perspective. So I think we all like the thing that goes, people like Web2 and decentralized solution because it's easy. So it is easy. And building Web3, it's hard. And the hardest part is to build a solid, incentivize, instant design so that the coordination actually works. The Web3 community and the whole crypto community are relying on users to contribute resources and participate in the network. So designing effective structures, networks, and instant it's super crucial to attract and retain a critical mass of users. So I think for us at Glacier Network, the technical side, it's hard. It's take times for us to wrap our head around it. But the most fundamental question and the hardest one would be the how to design your system, how to design your reward system so that you can coordinate different partners and the players to contribute and make everything work within your ecosystems. So this could involve the tokenized rewards, reputation systems, and other mechanisms. But if you ask me what the number one block that can on top of your head, I would say that's the design of your incentive systems and your token economy. That's my idea. Thank you.
Thanks for the insight, Chena. Cheng. Let's move forward with Conor.
Yeah, happy to chime in here. So, talking about technical and operational challenges that deepen projects need to overcome. There's a couple. I mean, on the technical side of things, I would say true, like trustless, verifiable, real world kind of verification or oracles is something that is still being worked on and kind of TBD in the space. Like, how do you know that the data that you're getting from a device hasn't been tampered with, is authentic? How do you know that device is online? How do you know, when there's financial incentives at play in terms of token rewards, there is a kind of a vector for gaming or attack in terms of siphoning off those token rewards in a kind of not beneficial to the network way. So there's a couple, different approaches. I think the first is kind of like trusted execution environments and secure elements on the hardware devices themselves in terms of like having a tamper proof like part of the device or chip that kind of runs separately from the rest of the like, firmware or software on the device. But even then, you usually need to trust the manufacturer that they like constructed that TE or secure element correctly. Another approach is like using zero knowledge proofs to kind of, I guess, mathematically try to verify the data that's coming off those devices. But I say all this to say, like, I don't think anyone's fully figured it out. At IoTex, we're leaning more on the zero knowledge proofs and kind of off chain computation side of things, but still some work to be done there in terms of the technical side of things. Another technical challenge I would say is just around, if your DPIN is, especially if your DPIN is using custom built hardware, so you're not using like, an app on a phone or a computer, you have some like say dash cam that you've custom built for your DPIN. Um, Building hardware is hard. I mean, that's something that's like very, I think, commonly acknowledged, but the merging of all the hardware challenges with all the kind of crypto challenges makes DPIN a very tough sector or industry to found companies in. So I think that's kind of like a nod or hats off to Deepin founders for taking that all on at once. Um, so those are some, maybe two big technical challenges. In terms of operational challenges, I think it really comes down to like how do you go to market on the supply and demand side. So how do you build a community? How do you convince people to buy hardware or to download your app? How do you build trust? How do you structure your token incentives in a way that you know incentivizes the behavior that you want on the network, but also doesn't isn't wasteful, isn't subject to too much gaming. You don't give away too many tokens to too many people that don't have the kind of best interest of the network at heart, right? How do you align the incentives of everyone in your token economy on the supply and demand side towards the ultimate like good of the network, not their individual benefit? So those are kind of a bunch of operational challenges, and I guess another important one would be how do you serve demand in a way that will be kind of sufficiently compelling, right? Like a lot of these deepins are attacking kind of markets that already exist in terms of the Web 2 world that have a lot of supply and a lot of demand and a lot of kind of revenue and market cap flowing through them, like the telecom helium example, for instance. Like, everyone's phones work like well enough, right? Like the mobile network operators in the US are valued at hundreds of billions of dollars each in terms of market cap. So there are existing markets out there where supply is meeting demand in a satisfactory way. It's just about like with deep and like how do we do that in an even better way? But you still need to meet demand where it's at, and that might be in a pretty kind of like Web 2 sense. So if your demand is like a bunch of Web 2 companies or people that aren't that familiar with crypto, it's like how do you abstract away a lot of the complexities and hassles of crypto while still retaining the benefits of decentralization and kind of building infrastructure in a ground up kind of community built way. So yeah, just kind of an overview of some technical and operational challenges for deepens.
Just thanks for sharing it. I guess you covered very good. I mean, both the technical as well as the fundamental challenges. One thing which I also feels is one of the challenges can be is also like interoperability, because what I feel is deepin projects achieving seamless uh, interoperability between different DePin network and legacy infrastructure, right? Because this is crucial for enabling widespread integration and adoption of DePin technologies. For example, let's consider a scenario where there are two separate DePin networks, right? One focused on decentralized energy distribution, and maybe another on the decentralized transportation infrastructure, right? In an ideal DePin ecosystem, these two networks should be able to easily communicate and exchange the data and value with each other, right? This could allow maybe electric vehicles on the transportation deep into automatically purchase energy from distributed energy resources on the energy deep in, like and creating like a more integrated and efficient system. This can be like a very ideal scenario when we have interoperability challenges is being resolved. But I'm very optimistic about it, and probably we will have it seeing in next couple of months. So very looking forward to it. Now, Constantine, what do you think about this?
To me, really a lot of like struggles or engineering problems comes from, well, the last time we were actually building on top of the centralized network as within the internet was the DARPA internet in the US, back in the US, when it was a communication between multiple research universities, and that was a channel where there was no centralized authority that was overseeing all of that communication. There were no central hubs for anything. So what reality hit for most of the P networks, or even like blockchain to an extent, is we really barely know how to operate real decentralized networks, and we are rediscovering a lot of the research, a lot of the topics right now, from like Bayesian tolerance systems to coordination between thousands and thousands of nodes at the same time. How do you even keep the latest state of the network when you have hundreds thousands of participants in the network? That's a very non-trivial question that we were not focusing before on, because, well, talking to Google is much easier than coordinating thousands and thousands of nodes around the globe. So for me, the biggest, or still like really a lot of challenges and complications, comes from understanding how to really make large system with a variety of participants and their different incentives into one solid ecosystem that you can reliably use and benefit from. And it's true both for the supply and for the demand side. And I think uh, you're rightfully pointing out the thing that you have to be reliable. You have to be convenient to use if someone will switch to your project over the traditional infrastructure. To me personally, a lot of the DePin projects do not really need to compete with traditional infrastructure. I think there's still so much more use cases of complementing or augmenting the infrastructure that already exists. I give you an example from Titan Network where, for example, yes, there is traditional centralized compute services like AVS, Google Cloud, and some may say that, oh, Titan Network is also providing compute from edge devices, so they have to be competing with Google in the end. But the reality is there are still so many more use cases where traditional infrastructure is not as powerful as a DePin network or an edge network device. For example, if you're using Uber Eats in whichever location you currently are, there is an opportunity for you to, for example, have an Uber Eats infrastructure hosted on a traditional Web2 services such as like Amazon or Google Cloud to ensure that your content is accessible 24/7. But what you can do with Titan Network is you can store all the content of images of, for example, food in each cafe of a specific city directly in that city. So you're reducing the workload on traditional infra while keeping the content in the location where it needs to be. And that is something that traditional infra right now is not able to do because there is still not enough granularity from traditional cloud infrastructure to provide you the service at every single city or at every single neighborhood. They still operate from major servers or hubs that are located maybe in a country, maybe in a neighboring country, even sometimes. And that's where those edge networks or those DP networks can become this fog layer of compute or the last mile content and delivery services where you still have the centralized infrastructure to keep the services up and running and make them in the most reliable way possible. That still makes total sense to me. But at the same time, you are using the various edge networks and DePin use cases where they bring the last mile services and compute, reducing the cost for traditional infrastructure, but also enabling the community in those neighborhoods and areas benefit from the services that are happening around them. So it's again a win-win situation for the both parties. Cloud infrastructure reduces the cost of spawning the networks at a more granular level, still being part of the workflow. And I think for many, many projects, that could be part of the future. If you're talking about AI use cases, we see a lot of demand and interest coming into the federated learning approach. And a good highlight of that could be machine learning for automotive vehicles. We now have so powerful machines or cars that sometimes they don't need a centralized authority to train the model anymore because it is being updated directly on the car device or on the car computer. So instead of having to need to talk to a centralized network all the time, you enable those devices or those machines to be self-trained model development. And that's a super cool DePin use case. We're just not thinking yet about that from a perspective of the DePin ecosystem. And that's where I think a lot of interest and value could be created. And those challenges of, okay, now I have millions of devices, millions cars driving around, million uh, mobile devices that contribute resources to the network. That is still one of the bigger challenges that DePin still has to solve day and night, is like how to coordinate such large systems and how to make the biggest value and the most painless either transition or contribution to the traditional infrastructure that already exists. If we are solving that problem, and I think we're literally solving it step by step, today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, the more of those problems are being solved and the more we find the contributions or collaboration opportunities between traditional and DePin infrastructure, the better and the more mature our industry become to serve day-to-day users with high quality services. And I think that's what really matters in the end. We never want to sacrifice the quality of a user just for the sake of using DePin ecosystem. It's rather we want to make it even better with special features that DePin is able to provide while traditional infrastructure is not able to provide. So that's what I'm looking for in DePin, and that's why I'm closely following what are the new trends to really enable the utilization of resources around the globe as much as possible.
Yes, that's really something to think about, and it has become really crucial for unlocking the full potential of DePin ecosystem, right? And by enabling the creation of truly integrated digital decentralized physical infrastructure network. So totally agree with you on that. Now let's turn the grass a bit. Moving ahead, it's a great question. Just wanted to know how you guys focus on acquiring more developer or maybe reaching out to builders, especially for Glacier Network and then Connor and probably the user side for Constantine. So let's start with Cheng from Glacier Network.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Could you please repeat that question again?
Yeah, sure. So I'm saying, like, what's your growth strategy for getting more developers or builders to use your product or use your infrastructure?
Yeah, okay. So the demand and supply side.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I think on the demand side, we want to find the most. I mean, I'm I work as the operation director, uh, so naturally I think in marketing and operation on my side. So on the demand side, we want to find the most effective way to speak to as many people as possible about Glacier Network. So they know what we are doing and they know what we are all about and the services we offer. Like this space talk, and we are also working with media partners and crypto AI projects to amplify our visions. This is how sort of my team and I create demand for Glacier for Glacier Network. Of course, there are a lot of developers building behind us behind the curtain. And for the supply side, again, I do want to emphasize on the on the design and the incentive system. So I mentioned. So it's more about building the network. I think that's it's imperative that we as the builder of the project to speak to people's self-interests and ask why they wanted to use it and what they can gain from it. For us, that's the number one strategy. That's fundamentally what we. That's the principle upon which we build this product. So we are now in the process of building end user functionalities. So we have to know them, to know the players, to view things from their perspective. Um, I think people who are present here today or tonight are all participants of value network. No matter whatever chain you prefer, but it's still a value network. So we must clearly articulate the advantage of participating in your projects. And in my case, it's a Glacier Network. So I guess in a way, we wanted to build something that can allow our participants to quantify the potential gains. So to make the value proposition undeniable, because you know having been building uh, solutions in this space for more than 7 years. One lesson I learned is that people need some level of clarity to act to make actions. So we need to allow them to see the see the future, not if not clearly, but semi clearly. So again, I do believe we must build something that articulate that messages to our users. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheng. Thank you so much. Uh, Connor, what do you think about this? Like, what's your maybe what's IoTech's growth strategy for attracting more developers and builders to use IoTech's infrastructure?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a lot of different kind of initiatives. I mean, the one that comes to mind most quickly would be our accelerator that we launched maybe about 6 months ago. So we launched this accelerator in conjunction with two VC firms that are also very interested in DePin, Future Money Group and Foresight X. And basically, the accelerator is the best way to, get embedded within the IoTeX ecosystem and launch your DePin on IoTeX. So it comes with some investment, it comes with introduction to investors, comes with a bunch of different kind of like mentorship presentations and one-on-one sessions. It comes with help on like your demo and pitch deck, and also kind of like full access to the IoTeX core team in terms of any like technical questions or integration questions. So we've got our first cohort of 8 projects that just graduated from that accelerator. I think 5 or 6 of them are going to TGE on our chain over the next 6 months. And then we've got a second cohort that is being finalized as we speak. It's going to be a little bit more rolling, but similar idea. So that the accelerator is primarily for DePin projects that are looking to launch natively on IoTeX, like have their token live on the IoTeX L1. But we also appeal to kind of DePin developers or DePin founders on a lot of other fronts. So, like I said, we take a very modular approach to all these infrastructural choices. Um, Two quick things I'll mention are DePin Scan, which is basically a coin market cap, but for DePin specifically that we built. So it's kind of like an explorer for the DePin space. We've made it free and very easy to create a profile page for your DePin there. We get around 50 to 100K unique viewers per month. So we've got kind of good, it's really good like exposure and awareness tool for your project. DePin founders can create a profile for themselves personally and then link it to their project so they can edit their page at any time, and it pulls in all the relevant information from, say, CoinGecko for market cap and token price. And then also the really cool thing, and that's kind of DePin specific, is that DePin projects can basically push the latitude and longitude and liveness of their devices to DePin Scan and have the devices kind of show up on the map. So that's something kind of unique to DePin that we enable there. And then the other kind of pretty modular way that we are appealing to DePin founders is with the liquidity hub. So this is kind of a combination of a decentralized exchange on IoTeX, our bridges to and from all the other major blockchains, and our wallet. And basically what we do is we'll work with any DePin project to bridge their token over from their home chain, whether it's Polygon, Ethereum, Solana, whatever it is, and then they'll contribute, say, $20,000 of their token. We'll contribute $20,000 of IoTeX to match it to create like a shared liquidity pool on the DEX, and then we will do liquidity mining incentives and co-marketing around that to basically help them bootstrap token liquidity on another chain, right? So they can kind of go multi-chain. They can tap into our huge global community and user base that's interested in kind of finding up and coming DePins. So it's been really successful. And yeah, those are just kind of a few ways that we appeal to DePin founders or try to increase demand and adoption on our chain.
This was really insightful. I like the third one specifically. So yeah, probably I'll also after this Twitter space, I'll probably put out a summary, and it's putting out the special or maybe very insightful things which you all have mentioned in this Twitter space, and probably I guess that will be really helpful for the audience, or probably the people who are building deep in projects also might find that helpful. So I'll probably say the summary version of that post Twitter space. So yeah, going forward, Konstantin, what do you think about, like, what's your thought in this?
Well, for us, what we really strive for as an ecosystem or as a community, we strongly believe that there should be as low barrier to participate in a network. And by participate, I mean whether you're contributor of the resources, whether you're the demand side who is renting the resources, or maybe you're a developer who is interested in building your own projects on top of the network. For us, the core value about all of those collaborations was actually to have as interoperable or as easy to onboard network as. An example of that is for the demand side. If you're using an Android device today, there is literally 2 clicks you need to do in order to start contributing resources of your mobile device to Titan Network. This is like the lowest barrier you can possibly get in order to be part of an ecosystem. I think something like that should be the ultimate goal for most of the DePin projects. It shouldn't be, you don't need to have a degree in computer science and then a sophisticated rig to be part of a cool community that contributes to resources and benefits from that. For me, it's more like, hey, let's make it as simple as possible. For developers as well, we are ourselves building on top of Cosmos SDK, so we are natively supporting a lot of the features that are already created by the community. We are trying to be as interoperable as possible, at least starting step one by one to do like be part of the Cosmos ecosystem, then scale it towards being cross-chain operable. And all of those features, I think having those key element of like it needs to be as simple as possible from the day one of your project is something that really helps us as Titan Network to be accessible for the community. If you try to complicate things, and don't get me wrong, operating decentralized infrastructure is complicated as hell. It just the user doesn't care about that, and the builder doesn't care about it. You have to have this very comprehensive technology code that synchronizes all of that systems under the hood. But still, your interfaces or the things that are facing the community, whether that's builder, demand, or supply communities, those have to be as simple as possible. And that's where we're putting a lot of effort to really onboard the people and provide them as simple tools and no-brainer solutions that they can leverage the day one. For our demand side, for example, our technology is very similar to a Docker container, which almost all the engineers in the traditional Web2 space are familiar with. So running something in Docker is very, very simple and easy. So it should be as simple for them to switch or run in parallel, or at least try it out as as it is possible. So for us, really removing the barriers to be part of DP networks was a core vision and belief for the Titan network. And honestly, this is the same belief we share for the future of the DePin ecosystem in general. I strongly disagree with anyone who says that, well, it's complicated, so we have to make a lot of complexities facing the user. The reality says that no, user doesn't care if it's complicated or not. He wants to use as easy, simple project that solves their day-to-day needs. They don't need to think or work beyond that, and they don't need to. Majority of them will never suffer problems for the sake of just using something that's decentralized. The reality is they probably won't. They will stick to the solutions that already exist. So it's your responsibility as a project developer to make it as simple as possible, and that's what we are really trying our best day to day to like reduce the barrier to participate. And then hopefully we are also onboarding other DePin projects to be part of a Titan network ecosystem where you can start mining different resources or run different nodes on top of Titan network nodes. On for the developer side, that gives you a very unique ability to be decentralized day one or leverage the DePin resources that's already available for the benefit of your own project. So these type of collaborations, we see that there is a mutual benefits for developers to become decentralized day one. And for our community, it's also super cool because if on top of their devices they are running the nodes of other projects, now they can mine multiple projects at the same time, and they don't even need to think about it. It will be just natively enabled on their edge devices, which to me is also super, super cool. The more communities and nodes we're able to onboard to the Titan ecosystem, the better granularity or the better the diversity of the project becomes, because suddenly I'm not only mining Titan network, for example, by contributing resources to the Titan network, but I'm also benefiting from the resources that being utilized in my device, and maybe I mine something else, maybe some other DePin network, maybe some traditional Web3 infrastructure like Bitcoin mining. All of that is now possible, and you are able to leverage those resources as easy as fluently as it can be. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about what DePin ecosystem is bringing today, and looking forward to the development of it.
So much for insightful talk. You guys are like throwing really insightful things. Is there a time limitation that we have to go ahead and wrap up soon because we are already 12 minutes ahead? So yeah, let's try to wrap up in a couple of minutes. Before going there, is anyone else want to share any update or kind of thing? I know everybody is getting really late, but if anyone wants to share any one or two liner update about their projects, it can be any alpha, it can be anything else. Please go ahead and pitch quickly so that our audience who's waiting to all hear you can get some alpha updates.
Totally. Maybe I'm happy to jump in here from my side.
Yes,
For
please.
the Titan network, we are actually launching our third testnet right now. So if you go to titannet.io, you'll see the most recent updates about the testnet design. So actually anyone with a mobile device with an access to the internet can participate in those type of testnets. So we are very much excited and incentivizing our community to be part of early developers of Titan network. So go to our website, check, and be part of the largest growing DePin community. So that's 2 cents from my side.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Connor. Anything? Is there anything you want to share in 102.9?
Yeah, I would say follow me and the IoTeX Twitter for kind of deep in wide updates. I do a lot of kind of like writing and speaking on Deepin or as much as I can. Also have the leading kind of Deepin focused podcast with the guys over at Escape Velocity Ventures called Proof of Coverage. So the link to that's in my bio. But we do kind of one Deepin founder interview a week, and are really trying to just make our way through the industry, tell as many founder stories as possible. So lots of deep in content coming out for my personal and also for my IoTeX. And then I can't share too much IoTeX Alpha, but I will say definitely pay attention over the next few weeks because we have a big launch coming out that includes a revamped white paper, new tokenomics, kind of a new vision for the whole company, and I think a vision that's much more inclusive for deepen projects and also for kind of third party infrastructure partners that are building different pieces of the tech stack that we don't necessarily want to build, but we're happy to include them in our kind of offering to deepens as well. And it's all kind of value accruing to the ISX token. So yeah, definitely keep a lookout for some big launches and announcements from the IoTeX Twitter as well. And thank you so much for having us on. I think this was a great discussion.
Thank you, Connor. Just last thing. Over to Chan from Glacier Network, and then we will wrap up.
Yeah, thank you. So with Glacier, we had some successes with developer tooling, but end user functionality might be the most direct way to impact user experiences. So we are now in the process of developing data visualization tool, and we are also building a team to create a large language model and a chatbot ranking app and a Web3 AI app store. So internally, we believe this is going to directly impact how people view Web3 applications. And if you want to learn more about the Glacier Network, we are featured in BNB Chain Top AI Landscape project, and we are also featured in Masari Research. So it's called a decentralized database, the missing piece of Web3. And yeah, just Google us, and I'm sure there are plenty of information about the Glacier Network. And by the way, to all the builders, if you are interested in collaborating with us, feel free to DM me and our account. Let's build it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this. And Konstantin, Chang, and Conan, thank you for joining in and sharing for your incredible insights today. I hope that our listener found it as engaging and informative as I did. So yeah, to everyone who tuned in, thank you for joining us on the Twitter space. If you enjoyed the discussion, please make sure to follow us and our amazing partners who are on the call. Uh, so yeah, Stay curious, keep exploring. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. Bye bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Bye bye.